All right, guys, so we got the cylinder heads for the Porsche from 996 back to the machine shop. And he said a few things about it. He said the one was ever so slightly warped. Like he said, it was probably never enough to cause an issue, but it's so easy to redeck it. If I can get the damn tape off. It's so easy to redeck it that, like, why not, right? And so there you are. Nice and clean. I don't know if it was this one or the other one. He didn't mention that. I'm going to peel this one off too. And what we're going to do here, we're definitely waiting on a bunch of parts. And it's probably going to be a little bit longer before we get that. The head bolts, whoa. The head bolts on the early 911s up to 2001. 2001, they use different stretch bolts. These are not stretch bolts, these are reusable bolts. Somebody said that the early 911s broke bolts. I never have seen that anywhere. I'm not going to say you're wrong. A set of bolts for this thing are about $500. So there is that. As far as cracks go, I expressed a little bit of concern, about a couple spots I thought there could be a crack. And luckily, he said that just wasn't the case, which is really good. So, I'm going to flip this over. I don't know if it was this one or the other one. He took the rest of the plugs out and tossed them, which is totally fine. You probably can't see with that lens very good. They said there are more likely casting cracks up in here. Not cracks, casting marks. But I just want to make sure. And everybody was saying they could crack up here. They could crack in the combustion chamber. Could crack anywhere. You know, when I looked at it here, I've seen a lot of engines apart in my day. A lot. And pretty much you could tell, especially with a car like this that had that much oil in the coolant. But we don't know a couple things about this. We don't know how long it took to get in there. Might have been years. Might have been a day. We don't know. So there is that. Now, I asked him on the phone about the oil cooler, if he had any way to test that. He said maybe. Act like he didn't want to mess with it, to be honest with you. So, like, no matter what, we had planned to replace the oil cooler and the PCV. I was just trying to figure out what was what. We tested it last time with vacuum. We couldn't get any vacuum to leak down at all. But there's two things about that. One of you guys said you have to put at least the pressure the coolant system has, ideally 40 pounds in the coolant system at the most. I think more it's like 20, 25. Obviously, a vacuum gauge is not going to get anywhere close to that. We had about 50 inch-pounds on it, which is not the same. The other thing is, the sludge that created in that engine is so thick, if those did have a crack in it, they may not pressure test correctly, even with the vacuum gauge we're using. So there is that. So what was the actual cause of the oil in the coolant that so many of these cars have? We could tell you what it was not. What was not the cause is the engine. And you say, oh my God, you pulled the whole engine out, blah, blah, blah. The engine of this thing, you can ask Philip how rotten all the hoses were. And if somebody actually wants to drive this car, it needed to come out. It needed to have all this other stuff done. We're going to do all the reseal everything, make everything really, really good. I wanted to check all the timing chain stuff. All that looks like somebody's probably replaced it, to be honest with you. The clutch also had to be done. It was about 30%. Like, we knew buying this car, even before it was even home, the engine must come out just by looking at the hoses on it. And so I don't know. Overall, the engine looks very good on the inside. You know, he boiled the heads out for us in the machine. He got, 85% of the crud off of them. Obviously, they're not perfect. They're never going to be perfect. That was the way the casting is and the age on them. But they're not nasty anymore. Like Philip said, you don't get gravy on your hands when you pick them up anymore. So that's all we really care about. What we're going to do to clean this engine this thing has so much aluminum corrosion on it. We're going to reassemble the heads, the valve covers, get everything sealed up. Probably going to gingerly roll it outside. Probably use some arrangement of oven cleaner or some. We'll have to look up, see what everybody uses to clean all the aluminum on it and get all the grease off before we reinstall it. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So before we could put this back together, we have to get our timing kit. We have to get our head gasket set. Not just the head gaskets, like I want to get the whole set so we can replace all the valve cover, all the O-rings on the spark plug tubes, everything that we need to get done. And at that point in time, we could actually put the heads back on the engine. We have to get our gasket sealer. These engines use a special sealer. It's made by Loctite. We get that. It wasn't that much. It was $20 to do that. And then we could put all the engine together. At that point in time, we'll need a clutch. We'll need the oil cooler heat exchanger, as you will. We'll need the PCV or air oil separator. And they will also need a massive amount of hoses. I've been picking around, looking. I found a small kit that has some of them, but it doesn't have all of them. So there is a little bit of research. Then we could actually put it in and physically start the car. While all that's going on, we're going to order tires for it and get those here, because the tires that are on it, let me tell you what, it's pretty sketchy. There's 2 or 3 different brands on there. They're all so hard. They're like hard and slick. And the fronts are totally bald down to the cords on the inside. So we need to do that. Before we could actually highway drive this car, like I said, we're going to have tires. We're going to have to do many things here. One is probably alignment on that car. And we already looked at all the suspension, didn't we? I can't remember this car or the red one. I don't think any of the struts were leaking. I think all the bushings look pretty good. Sway bar links are kind of junk. Other than that, we need an inside cleaning. I don't know if there's any paint particularly bad enough in this car we're going to do. I think we're not going to do the 997 body kit anymore. It's just the market's so high on these cars, I think it's not going to be worth it. Whether you have Chad the body shop guy touch up any paint on it, I really don't know. There's no one thing that's very bad on it besides the top of the spoiler, I believe. But overall, not a bad deal. I'd like to try to get a couple things sold and out of here. Then we're definitely into buying another 996 or another Cayman with bore scoring. Also, the machine shop we have will do the new cylinder sleeves for a Cayman or a 911. He said it's no problem at all. So there is that. If we could buy the sleeves for $350, $349, I'd ask him how much I press them in. I guess a few $100, whatever. Even if it's $500, who cares? And we could have a broken $10,000 or $13,000 engine fixed for less than $1,000. So that makes sense for us to do it. That's going to be all for today's video. Just want to update you guys. A lot of you guys saying take it to the machine shop. We did that. We came back with a good report card on the heads. So I'll let you know. We'll see y'all later. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.